Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Nelly Harutsunyan. I'm from Yerevan. I've been living here for almost 20 years. Um, yeah,
Why are you helping me with this project?
I think it's because I have a very special connection with this city, and I really want the world in general, even if it's just your class, to know about this place because it's very special and it has a really beautiful story that is worth telling.
After living in Armenia for 2 years, I've been able to spend quite a lot of time in Yerevan. And even though it is not my hometown, I have a very special connection with this city. Living here now is the first time I've ever lived in a country as an ethnic minority. People can clearly see that I'm not Armenian by my blondish hair and blue eyes, and therefore treat me differently. It is strange living this life, living as an outsider, but it has taught me so much about what diversity means and how I can be a part of it. Armenia is almost entirely mono-ethnic, with only a few nomad Yazidis, Kurds, and international partners and students making up the rest of the demographic, with me belonging to the latter. Having grown up in Denmark, I never truly understood the concept of poverty and inequality. Of course, we have poor people in Denmark, but not nearly to the same extent as here. Like a lot of post-Soviet capital cities, Yerevan also has a very diverse and even twisted history when it comes to its architectural style and the overall feeling of the place. Walking around different parts of Yerevan, you can clearly see the layers of historical eras in the streets of this ancient city. Some parts of the center of the city look like a stratified interactive picture, where in the front part the little ancient houses are trying to endure just one more century, while the big but quite bleak Soviet buildings brutally surround them, but get encompassed themselves by the new and modern Yerevan that is only available for the so-called elite of the city. The nice big villas that used to belong to the pre-Soviet aristocracy look like old men who lost everything and are completely abandoned, but keep standing still and not giving up their outside image that says everything about their intellectual, artistic, and wealthy past. For this project, I chose to tell you about one of the oldest parts of the city, a neighborhood that has a special connection to the hearts of the local people. I'm going to tell you a story of rise, fall, and revival. The story of Kond. When you first enter Kond, you immediately get a strong sense of what the place is like and why it is so special. It is a hidden gem on top of a hill. You can live in the city for years and never even know it exists because unless you're searching for one, there's almost never a reason to go. When we entered the neighborhood, we were immediately met by graffitis, street art, created last year, turning this part of Kond into an interactive art gallery.
This is good.
Paint sprayed on walls of abandoned or collapsed buildings, as well as brick walls separating the quiet gardens from the busy streets. Most of them share some Armenian signatures: the mountain Ararat, letters from the Armenian alphabet, or references to stories passed down through generations. That is why the graffitis fit so well in this place. It is a modern take about what Kond is all about: generations and stories. Some people live in hundreds of year old houses, worn down with cracks in the walls, no heating, and no running water. I interviewed one of these people, an old woman, that invited us into her house and showed us around. With the help of Nelly, I was able to talk to her and learn more about what Kond is and why it is so special.
Էսի արդեն 400 քանի տարվա տուն է։
Հա։
Այս պատերի սկզբակ։ Տանի բարը սեյլուսը։
Հա։
Այս պատերից դու կզգաք արդեն այն կոմը նոր եմ շարել։ Էսի այս ապետերը։ Արդեն ինքը Դիզ դրսիսը հավաքեմ, նայք արդեն էսի կես դար ապրացա այդ տախտակները, տեսեք, եթե ես սա չդնեի, սա կարողա փլվի թափի, նայք կես դար ապրացա, էսի արդեն նայք փլվում է,
Հա,
ինքն իրան։
դուք։
Այս տունը արդեն ճայք էր տալի։ Մեկ սենց ճայք էր տվել, ես էսի զորով սարքել եմ, հավաքել եմ։
Kond is the stuff of legends. The people that lived there have lived there for generations and passed down the knowledge from grandmother to grandchild. Streets are narrow, winding, and you can tell that nothing has changed since before cars were invented. Today, it is an almost 100% Armenian population, like the rest of the country. However, it was not always like that.
Հա, դուք այստեղ տեղափոխվել եք, թե ոնց որ շուտ այնց եք։
Չէ, իմ 6 պապա ապրել են Կոնդում։ Այն ժամանակ եղել է Ղարադաղլու Կոնդի 50, Կոնդի 53։ Ղարադաղլու է եղել։
Թուրքականից որ
Ղարադաղլու 53 է եղել, իսկ հիմի դառնա Կոնդ 58։ Առաջի ներսեսը 6-ը պապա եղել այստեղ ապրող։ Նրանց հետո էլ ես տատիկիս տունն է եղել, տատիկս անեղել է Արուս, տատիկս տունը կտակել է ինձ վրա, ես եմ եղել, ես եկա այդ տները արդեն իարից թափում են հազիվ հավաքել եմ, սենց երկինքը երևում էր, այս տունն էլ արդեն համարյա 400 քանի կես դար ապրած տուն է եղել, այս վերևի տունը, որ ես ցույց տվեցի։
Իսկ ձեր պապերի ժամանակ այստեղ մենակ հայեր էին ապրում, թե ավելի
Չէ, հայեր էին ապրում, թուրքեր էին ապրում, գերեզմաններ ա եղել, մանկատուն ա եղել։
In the 19th century, the place was called Tapabashi, a Persian name meaning top of the hill due to its geographical location in the city. At that time, the population consisted of 1,568 Armenians, 2,537 Tatars, and 195 Boshas, also called Caucasian Gypsies. Much has changed since then, but the traces are still there to be found. The remnants of an old mosque, now turned into a house, lie mostly collapsed in the center of the district. After the Armenian genocide of 1915, 17 families took refuge in the mosque and their descendants are still inhabitants to this day. Several windows and doorways show the iconic Persian towers and architectural style. The diverse history of Kond is everywhere to be seen. When did it all change? How did it go from being an ethnically diverse community to being solely Armenian in just over a century?
Արև։ Ոնց ես։
This is due to the Armenian genocide of 1915 committed by the Turks, the founding of Armenia as an independent country in 1918, and later after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Դե մեջիթի հայաթը այսօր մարդիկ ապրող կա, մարդիկ կյանքի գնով պահպանել են, բայց դե մարդիկ էլ ապրելու տեղ չունեն, էսի պիտի պետությունը մտածի, որ կարողանա գույն այդ մարդկանց բարի լավի, այս մեջիթը արդեն քանդվում է, մարդիկ հազիվ այս մսկիթը պահել են, դարից դարա է պահվեք, հիշ չեսի։
During the genocide, many Armenian families fled to Yerevan and settled in Kond. Later, during the first clashes between Armenians and Assyrians over the region of Nagorno-Karabakh, many Turkish or Assyri families sold their houses to Armenians fleeing from Baku and fled themselves as anti-Turk feelings grew strong in the Armenian populace. This leaves us with where we are today, a neighborhood founded by people of several different cultures and ethnicities, left to be taken over by the local majority. The history of Kond is not just the history of a small forgotten neighborhood in a lost city. The history of Kond is the history of the Armenian people. There is a reason that the title of this project is Rise, Fall, Revival. That is because Armenians, like Kond, have always been broken down, abandoned, revived themselves just to be torn down again. It is a nation and a people that have adapted to overcome war, conflict, and hunger. Being the first Christian nation in the world in an area dominated throughout history by the Muslim nations of Persia and the Ottoman Empire, peace was hard to come by. Millions of Armenians have been forced to leave their lands, hoping to build a new life overseas. And yet they managed to stick together and maintain the love they have for the place they are from. Armenians have lived in these mountains and these valleys for centuries, spoken their language and upheld their traditions through Arab and Persian invasions, Russian occupation, and even through massacres that aim to erase them from history. As I am making this film, Armenia is at war again. Yet another generation is fighting for their survival on the front lines against Azerbaijan. More than 1,000 brave young men and women have already died and will never return home. It is a conflict more than 30 years old that recently flared up again due to Turkish and Azeri aggression. Armenia has no choice but to defend itself. Just a few years after the peaceful revolution that saw a change in the political climate of Armenia, throwing out the old corrupt ministers and president to elect the new public-minded Nikol Pashinyan, the nation is falling again. Yet, when I walk around the streets of Yerevan and of Kond, I am sure that this is not the end. I have already started to see the signs of revival. There are so many people that want to volunteer and help with whatever they can. The stores are crammed to the brim with poor families spending what little extra money they have on cigarettes and Snickers for our brave soldiers. Blood banks are overflowing. Every single apartment or house that was empty before is now rented by hundreds of diaspora Armenians from the US, Europe, and the Middle East to give away for free to their countrymen fleeing from the war-stricken areas. I have never known a nation as resilient as this. People as determined to never give up. These people will rise again, just as Kond did, and as Yerevan has done, and as Armenia will do 1,000 times over. I have no doubt in my mind about this. Armenia has risen. Armenia is falling, but Armenia will always revive.
Ես գիտեք ոնց կցանկանա հոգեհարազատ լիներ, որ Կոնդում փեշերի տակ թող լիներ շենք սարքեն։ Օրինակ ես հեչ նպատակ չունեմ իմ տունը հանձնելու։ Փեշերի տակ թող լիներ, բայց թող սարքեն այգի, բան, որ ավելի կենտրոնական տեղ քաղաքի սիրտն է, որ հաճելի լինի, որ մարդիկ տենան, հիանան, հաճույք ստանան, որ թեկուզ այն հին կոնդեցին, որ տանջվել է այդ քարերի հետ կռիսների, մկների հետ կռիվ արե, գոյն է այդ հաճույքը տենա վայելի նոր մեռնի։ Քաղաքի սիրտն է Կոնդը։ Օրինակ ես չեմ կարող ոչ միտեղ որ գնում ես չեմ կարող մնամ մենակ ես իմ տան մեջ եմ կարողանում հանգիստ մնամ
How can you not like kitties, Nelly?
You're not taking it. Okay. No, you're not taking it. Oh, there's one more.
Oh, father, little baby.